Hello, hello.
And the majority hatching. Most of the other eggs on the island.
Yo, yo, what's up, guys? Today I'll be doing stand-up comedy because I feel like having some jokes. And yeah, let me know if you want to hear something funny. Well, that I think it's funny at least. Or you just want to talk, chill, relax. I'll be doing improv games. So, guys, if you're here and you're new to this, feel free to ask any questions, and I will start telling you stories about my improv comedy. Because I figure, you know what? I'm a joke at life, and I figure no, I'm joking. I'm not a joke at life. Basically, I just want to try improv. That's all there is to it. I figure it'll be a good time to do a couple of you know. So if you're new to this, feel free to, So if you're listening to this, so I got a couple ideas of what to do for the improv. If you guys, want to give me some ideas on what to do, that'd be great. Just tell me a story. Say, hey Joe, tell me a story. The moron, you'll be like, I'll be like, I no problem. I got you, Holmes. Just say, Joe, tell me a story, and I'll be like, got it, fam. I'm like, and I will tell you the biggest story you'll ever know. Just say, tell me a story. So if you're new to this, just let me know what kind of story. Just say, "Hey Joe, just tell me a story," and I will start talking, and I will tell you one of the funniest ones that I would know, like a few of the things that has happened to me in my life. Things that I particularly have gone through in order to get to where I am right now. One of them being a cartel drug dealer. Yep, that is one of my favorite buddies to do. Cartel drug dealer. So if you guys are curious as to what exactly, I call it the me show because it's me. Just say, Joe, you know what? I need you to tell me a story, and I'll be like, no problem. Story told. Ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Hey guys, welcome to my stream. If you're new to this, don't be afraid to us. Be like, yo, like, um, yeah, just right now, all I'm doing is Oh fuck, I need to change. I'm just here for your entertainment. Don't worry about tonight. Boop 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 boop. I should not sing. I should definitely not sing. Hmm. So if you want me to tell you a funny story, let me know. I'm more than glad to, more to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. Just say, Joe, tell me a story, and I will tell you the story. I will tell you the greatest story that ever been told. I fucking hate that. That's funny. Just say, Joe, I got this. Hey, how you doing, Rachel Lucifer? Thank you. Welcome to my show. I am doing great. What about yourself? If you want to, I am trying out comedy. I've been told I'm very funny, and as my girlfriend would say, I'm only funny the first time you meet me. After that, it's just downhill. Tell you a joke, sure, no problem. So let me tell you the funniest story that I ever had to deal with, and this goes back to let me set the scene. Back when I was in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere around there, when I was in high school. Yes, I am freaking old. But when I was in high school, I used to wear a lot of Gap clothing. So I was a Gap kid, and if you don't know what a Gap kid is, it's a very posh kind of look. Now, the other thing you gotta know about me in that time that back in those days, depending how old you are, the the big look was that you always had an open shirt like I do right now. And on top of that, you always, um, on top of the open shirt, you will always have like a cross. So that make you look like Miami Vice type of thing, where I always had the look of like of your typical Hollywood drug dealer. I did not know this at the time, nor did I ever thought that I was a drug dealer. To make matters worse about that particular time is that I had a pager. That was the first pager that came out during that time. Cell phones were not a thing. Only pagers around. My mom thought that it would be a great idea for their sons to have a pager. So here I am, dressed in a like, I'm talking about like I'm 15, 14, maybe 16, and I'm dressed like with a dress shirt, dress pants, dress shoes, and dress socks. So I always and I have a pager on me. So whenever it go off, and then I used to walk out, people always thought that I was doing some kind of drug deal. At the time, I did not know this. At the time, I thought I was just a normal kid. I, for the love of God of me, always thought that I was normal. I never at any point in time ever thought that I was not normal, and I thought like I did everybody else. It happens also at that particular time. It also happens to be that I live in the suburbs, where it was a prominent white like white people. Like there wasn't any Latinos per se, and there wasn't any particular um, any other people of color or of anything. I think there was only one black guy aside from Latino, and there was like maybe one or like Ana Latina somewhere in there. We were few, like really, really few. So, onto the story. That being said, I always come out and people thought like people at some point throughout my I guess career, as you would call it in high school, people thought that I actually was legitimately a drug dealer. I never actually particular did anything to did that. I just dressed the part. So one day when I was hanging out with my friend, who's by the way he's a martial artist, big tall guy, about 6 foot something. Like he's a black belt, took a degree. I used to take martial arts. I myself don't like to actually um, fight. I prefer to hug it out. And so I don't particular like fighting. I'm like what they say in the industry, and by the industry I mean I'm making the crap up. Is a panda. So I could be fierce if I want to be, but I'm also too fat to deal with anything. So I'm just gonna like sit here and eat and not deal with life altogether and like sleep most of the time. But if I have to, I will deal with things. That's basically one of my nicknames. The panda. But at the time, obviously, unknown to me, I didn't know this at the time either. But at the time, I thought she was way skinnier, looked like, legit looked like one of those mob gangsters from Miami Vice kind of thing. So anyway, so I'm coming down. I'm hanging out with my friend. We're coming up the street, like it's about a block away. It's a gas station. We're about to get some Slurpees. So Slurpees is basically if you're not from the U.S. or from here, it's like frozen Coke or frozen anything into like a big container. Yeah, that's basically a Slurpee. Um, so from here, like we're walking down, we're walking back from it. So we just came out from lunch. We're going back there. We're coming from lunch. All of a sudden, out of freaking nowhere, and again, I don't know anything about this in my life or anything else. This kid pulls up in front of me, blocks me off. So he goes on top of the curb, and then he goes from the top of the curve. This big ass mofo, like I'm talking about big ass mofo. Like his head, what is like his hands, like his freaking arms are like huge, like they're the size of my head. So basically, one punch, it's I'm gone. Like I'm just legitimately gone. Like he takes one punch at me, and I'm gone. Like I'm dead. So what me and my great wisdom of being a 15-year-old, he comes at me. He's like, "Yo." He first stared at me for I don't know why, and I'm just confused eating my freaking like, I'm drinking my Slurpee here, and I'm just like, and this guy goes like, "Yo," he's like, "I know what you did," and I'm like, my dumbass being self, and I'm like, what did I do? Because I figure I might know some more information about like whatever hell this guy did. Like apparently what I did. He's like, "You're in a turf, and I'm here to like f you up," but I'm like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, "I Joe," I'm like, "Guy wants to set you, the guy wants to fight you, not sure why." Best course of action, most people will be like, "Fight!" No, not me. Nah, not fam. Like, so what I decided to do, and what I decided in my big brain of my moment of my, I decided that I'm gonna give him some love. And by love, I mean I'm gonna give him a hug. So I'm telling this guy, like this huge ass guy. I'm talking about like he's a taller than my friend. He's about like he's a little bit taller than my friend, a little bit bigger than him. He quite packs quite a bunch, and was this guy in the blue shirt from before? I don't know what you mean by that. Uh, was this guy in the blue shirt? Oh yeah, yeah. So that yeah, just ignore that. We're just gonna move this here and problem solve and move cable away. There, no more cable, no more problem. Okay, so the I can't fix it, man. Do you want to keep telling the story, or do you want to worry about the cable? Just imagine that it's gone. I fixed it. Therefore, out of sight, out of mind, right? Like that's what happens. All right, so this, where was I? This random ass guy, right? Like this big ass guy. He's like, I'm gonna mess you up. I'm gonna punch you because like he thought that he told me eventually. He told me that like through the conversation that we had is that apparently I infiltrated somebody's turf and I wasn't supposed to be selling it where it was. Um, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Los Andre. Um, so and I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on because he was like, when did this happen? It's like on Friday, and I was like, dude, I was like, and I remember in my back of my mind, like to this, I was sitting at home playing video games, like I wasn't doing anything. There was nothing particular that I didn't think that I did, and so I was like, okay, I'm like, it obviously not me, because I know where I was. He doesn't know where I was. He thinks it was me because I'm the only freaking Latino out here. Because apparently they're only one Latino. Why do you want to fight me? Um, I'm sorry, Ghost. Well, he wanted to fight me because he thought I was. I'll get to the story as to why he got that. I was like, so, but basically, at that moment, he wanted to fight me because at that moment, which I didn't know about, he told me that I apparently went to was selling drugs on his turf. Now, I don't know what drugs he's talking about, and I don't know what turf he's talking about because I've never been to any of those places, nor do I know anybody, or nor do I have drugs in me, nor have I sold them. So, anyways, this guy in particular, um, he came up to me, and I'm like, I'm gonna give this guy a hug, because I thought that the best course of action, um, you know, no, I wasn't. That's the point. I was not selling anything. I was just saying that they thought I did because I'm Latino, and therefore they thought I sell it. But let me get to that point right there in a second. Just hold on, okay? Hold that thought to why they thought this. Okay, so now in particular, this particular guy, I thought my big brain over it. I'm just gonna try to give him a hug. I'm like, if he wants to beat me up, I got two choices. Either A, I try to hug him out and he thinks I'm gay and he runs away. B, we hug it out because maybe he needs a hug. Maybe he needs some love and he doesn't get enough from his family or from his mom or dad. C, particularly it might scare them that he never been showed that much love or affection to at a cellular level that I got you, Europe man. I'm telling the joke right now, so if you listen in, you'll be able. I'll get to the punchline really quickly. So, and I'm a big head of me. I was like, crap. I'm like, this is the reason why this guy needs a hug, and this is the reason why, this is the reason why he needs it. So I go up there to this big ass guy who, by the way, can knock me out with one punch, and I'm like, dude, just hug it out. I'm like, I don't know what happened, but just hug it out. And he's like, I'm gonna punch you, and I'm like, dude, yeah, that's fine. You can punch me, but I'm still want to hug. My friend who's in the back, who's like martial artist, like black belt, like fucking second degree. He's sitting there. He's ready to jump this guy. I'm ready to hug this guy, and I'm sitting there and I'm about to hug him, and he's like, foo. He's like, you got lucky this time. He's like, this time I'll mess you up, and I'm like, I don't worry, I'll be here for the hug, and I'm like. And then I was like, get putting my hand out of here. The guy like walks off. He's like, he just walks off. And my friend is like, why did you do that? I'm like, I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, if I fought him, I probably would have died. And he's like, did you know who he was? I'm like, no. I'm like, did you know that like what happened? I'm like, no. He's like, did you sell drugs? I'm like, no, man. I'm like, you were with me on a Saturday. Remember, we were playing video games. He's like, oh yeah, right, right, right. And I'm like, my friend, he didn't even believe me. He thought I was a drug dealer. So I was like, dude, we're also 15 or 14, so like, whatever, right? So, anyways, fast forward, and I go, like, I'm scared out of my mind. I'm shaking because I'm like, I could have died. I could have legit died at that particular moment. And I was like, so I started asking around the school. And as soon as I started asking around the school, people, I'm not finished, man. Don't worry, I'm getting there. So as I'm asking around the school, I asked people like, like, yo, I'm like, so this guy, like, um, came up to me and said that I was blah blah. And I started asking my friends. I started asking everybody. I started legitimately like asking everybody that I knew around the school, even people I didn't know about. Like they're like, what you thought? It's like, and one of my friends come up to me. I finally asked him. He's like, hey, do you know what's going on? He's like, um, Yeah, it's a true story, by the way. Uh, exactly. This is a true story. It happened to me when I was a teenager. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I told everybody you were a drug dealer," and I was like Pikachu face. I was like, "Why the hell would you do this?" I'm like, "Why would you think that this is a freaking good idea to tell everybody?" It's like, I don't know. I always thought you looked like a drug dealer. I thought you'd be a drug dealer. And this guy is white as shit. Like, he's white. He's not even gangster, but he's talking like Dr. Dre or Eminem or some of the like gangster. But I don't know why. Like he's just that's the way he decided to talk, and that's the way he is. So I'm like, I'm sitting there, I'm freaking out because I am actually getting there. Like I'm particular getting I know it because people now everybody in the school. I finally realized at that particular point that finally, I know why people are looking at me in such a certain way, and it's because this mother guy told everybody I was a drug dealer. And the worst part of all, and it gets even better than this, by the way. So, and he they had stories about me, but I'll get to it in a second. So let's continue with the the bad guy. So next day, I'm sitting in my locker, like it's about the weight locker, so it's a high locker. It's like they're about your chest size. Hey, thanks for the party, Dre. So. They're about chest size. This big ass guy comes to me in high school, and he's like, "Yo," and I'm like, "Oh, come on." I'm like, I don't want to die. I'm like, I'm in my head. In my head. Outside, I'm like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "Oh God." I'm like, "Why? Why me?" I'm like, "I'm gonna get fucked up." I'm like, "I'm gonna die." I'm like, "This is not cool. This is not great. This is not cool. This is not like, something like, that's gonna happen." He's like, "I am so sorry." And I'm like, "Say what?" I'm like, he's like, "I didn't know who you were." And I'm like, "Who the hell am I?" in my head. And I'm like, "Oh?" And I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, man, I didn't know who you were and who you work for and who your family was. Um, no, man, I was not a dealer. I just have a gold chain because my mom gave it to me. Like, it's a very Latino thing to do. So, and it's like, I didn't know who you were, what you did, and um, like he's like, I'm like, "Oh yeah," and instead I'm like, "Who am I? Who really am I?" I'm like, "Am I a drug dealer? Am I?" He's like, "Here's my number," and this guy, like, he's freaking huge. Like, he has like freaking big. He's like, he saw a ghost, like legitimately saw a ghost where like forever, like like he's seeing like death upon him. He's like, so he gives me a card, which is a little envelope about this big, and like it's more like a piece of paper with his number and three. There were two homies beside him, and they were like, "Yeah, man, we didn't know who you were. Please didn't do anything to us. We love you. We got your back." Um, well, but was this guy in the blue shirt? What blue shirt? I don't know what you're talking about, man. What blue shirt? um, so I was like, "You didn't know who you were?" He's like, "Yeah, man, we didn't know who you were." So he's like, they're all like freaking out about this, and I go back to my friend. He's like, and I'm like, Dude," I'm like, "This guy came up to me and he apologized." He's like, "Oh yeah, that was my fault." I'm like, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, he basically said to me, like, he's like, he basically told him that, and this is the story, which is at this point it gets freaking crazy, because at this, by the way, this is the beginning of my high school. So grade 9, grade 10. I'm here in Canada, Vancouver. Like, we have grade 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are the 4 years in high school. So in grade 9, 10, this is when it happens to me. And the guy's like, "Yeah, I told him you're part of the cartel, from Miami. You're here on business trip. You're like," and he's telling the story like it's freaking a fact, right? Like, he's like, "Your family sent you here to Canada to expand the cartel network on cocaine." And I'm like, "And that is why you're here, and that's why the way you look." Um, he eventually like started up a rap video or something like that. But like, he's like, "So let me get this straight." I'm like, "You told half of the school, that not only am I a drug dealer, but on top of this, I am from the cartel family only because I'm Latino." He's like, "Yeah, it made sense to me." And it's like, and on top of this, my father is one of the biggest good drug dealers out there, and I'm here to expand his domain into Canada. Um, and he's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I said." And I'm like, why would you do this? I'm like, why would you? Why would this thing happen to you? Like, and he's like, well, sometimes in life, and this is like, he looks at me straight in the eyes, like, sometimes in life things just happen, and then he decides to walk away, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, uh, uh, what, like, what the hell just happened? He's like, and then that is the start of my career as a um, non-drug dealer slash drug dealer, because I never actually dealt any drugs, but people thought I did. After that, it got even freaking weirder. From the point, I wonder what happened. I've been looking for one of these for all day. Good, I'm glad. From that point on, it got even weirder because the teachers, who I thought as a 14, 15, 16, 17 year old, they'll be like, they got their crap together, they got their thing on there, and that they particular have, like, they should be smart enough. They're not teenagers, they're not dumb. They should be smart enough to figure out that me, somebody that particular, that doesn't have that many, like, I only dress this way because my mom decided that, like, my mom bought me this clothing and I bought it on sale because it was cheap and it looked good, like it wasn't even that expensive. I figured they would be like, yeah, yeah, he's not a drug dealer, he's just another kid, and that's just a rumor. Nah, 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 nah. Because also, the people that were here, knock knock, who's there? Okay, anyway, so the people that were there, like, they also thought that I was particular. The teachers especially thought I was a drug dealer. In fact, the teacher came up to me and he said to me, Joe, and he looks me straight in the eye, 7 year old, again, the principal of the freaking school, um, comes up to me and it's like, he says to me, I know who you are. And I'm like, I'm looking at him. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What in God's damn nation are you, candles? Um, who's there? Candle? I don't. Whatever. Candace. Okay. Anyway, he's I'm like, who in God nations do you think I am? I'm like, he's like, and then he tells me, he's like, I know you've been dealing drugs. I'm like, in my school. I'm like, I will not have this. So, the only Latino guy in the whole school, for some reason, is the only one dealing drugs. Nobody else, but just me. And apparently, I'm the freaking ringleader. And according to him, he has his eye on me for whatever reason. Um, can this door open or I'm stuck here? Okay, open the door. So, like, for some reason beyond me, like, like, he has his eye on me the whole time. So every time I do something, and because of this, what happened was that, basically, every so often I would get my locker raided by police officers, and I would just sit there like a dumbass, like, telling them, like, I don't have anything, and it's like, and then the police officer with the principal was like, I'm pretty sure I was in some kind of watch list, because they're like, one of the guys, I could have swear I heard him say that, he's like, he's good, he's really, really good. I'm like, he has no footprints, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, y'all know that, like, there's other people aside from me, and I'm like, and if you watch me all the time, I'm like, there's no way I could be dealing drugs, and that was basically, that was that's how my life started, in school, um, you know, knock knock, who's there? Me, me who? Me Candace, making you crazy. Yeah, okay, that works. So yeah, like, so, I always I got in trouble a lot from the high schools, and it didn't get any better. I also lived in Poco. Uh, yeah, yeah, you would think that common sense would be common, but it's really not. Like, um, Mikey. So, like, I particular, I thought it would be fun to do it. So, during that time, during my high school and during the time that I was there, a lot of weird things that I cannot even make this up, even if I wanted to, because a lot of the things happened to me. We lived in Poco, which, by the way, I call the projects, or also I call them um, the ghetto. Port Coquitlam is actually what it is. So back in 2000, there was the reason why I call it the project because there was also a project. By the way, like there's always a project working on it. I never finished. So I call it the projects because there was no time that an actual project itself would actually ever finish and ever like actually continue finishing. So it was just a ghetto. I'm like, and to show you how ghetto it was, like 2 blocks down the main high school, which is a very nice neighborhood in itself. Like there was a crack house with lots of people in there. Everybody knew about the crack house except for the adults, which I thought it was really weird. That everybody knew about it. All these older kids knew. Like, and somebody, like, it's not like it says crack house like with neon lights in it. You literally just see a crack guy, like a guy in crack, sitting outside the house, and then there's a bunch of smoke coming outside of it. So like, I don't know, like if it looks like a crack, kind of feels like a crack, smells like a crack, it probably is a crack. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that was that's interesting. The other things that and because I grew up in this ghetto as neighborhood, there was a lot of things that happened throughout like my lifehood when I was there. One of the funniest moments that I can remember back in the day was that particular there was so I'm sitting with a leather jacket and because my mom bought me like the Gap leather jacket, which is only like it only cost like $150, so it wasn't that expensive, but it was like back in the day it was pretty nice. um Knock knock. Okay, you know what, I'll indulge you, Luis. Who's there? Okay, nobody's there. Got it. Okay, so in this particular one, like and what was I saying? In this particular leather jacket, it was about $150 that it cost me. Like, but it was a thick one. It was like I think it was made from pig or something. I don't know, something cheap. Um, and this kid, who, by the way, because as you living in the ghetto, there's gotta things gotta happen that that are kind of ghetto-ish. And by ghetto-ish, I mean I just mean that people that need money and have money and need problems and they're always doing something else for the money and like these are the things that can happen, right? So um, because of that, there was this particular kid when I was standing there and I was sitting there with one of my friends in the park in the middle of nowhere. This I would say 10-year-old kid, um, yeah, about 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid. He came in and he's like, "Yo," and I'm like, and this kid is trying to sound black and tough, and I don't know why. I don't know why every single freaking suburban kid in our neighborhood are always trying to sound black. Like, it was just, I'm like, I'm like, we're not in Compton, we're not even in Brooklyn, we're not in like, you know, we're like we're in the widest part of town there is to it. I'm like, and I love the way they talk, and I like it. It's just that I don't understand why I need to adopt it, and I don't understand why, like, there would we need to be like that into it. Like every single kid needed to talk that way because I think it was cool back then. I'm not really sure what was the actual outcome to the people. Um, yeah, so that was kind of weird. But anyways, this kid comes up to me and he's just like, "Yo," and I'm like, "I'll mess you up." And he's about 10 years old. He's like a little bit shorter than me. He's about I was about like 5 foot, let's say 5'4", and he was about 4 foot, 3 foot something. He was kind of midget sized, like small person, like smaller than most kids, like maybe 9 years old. He's like, "I'll mess you up. Give me all your money." Um, and I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'll give you the money. I'll mess you up." But I'm like, I got weapons, and I'm like, I'm like, "Let me see them." So the kid puts out his backpack, and he brings out he brings out like, and I kid you not, like this little tiny little kid, like he brings out this sledgehammer, like it's about this big, like this particular big for it, and this wide. I don't know where he got it from, don't know where it is. So he takes it out and he's like, "Go, give me your money." I'm like, "Dude," I'm like, they're not gonna give you money." He's like, I'm like, "I didn't have to do but you made me," and he's like, and then he goes into the backpack and he grabs like a chain. And the chain is pretty long. It's about 5 feet long. It's about bigger than him. So like he's just kind of just sitting there and kind of like just strolling down. And it's like he doesn't really there. He's like, "Give me your money. I'll mess you up with this sledgehammer and chain." And I look at my friend and I'm like, "You are aware that there's two of us and one of you. And by the time you finish swinging that chain or hammer, we could have pinned you down." This kid finally realized the big mess up that he did because I didn't know that. Yeah, the hammer was bigger than him. Like it was huge. Like it was literally bigger than like his whole body. Like it was like yay big. Like and it was heavy. So he's like dragging it. Like I don't know. Like Silent Hill. Like the Silent Hill dude. Like the thing that drags the sword, and he's just kind of dragging it. He kind of looked like that, but less scary and a little more and a little more cute, and a little bit smaller. Like way smaller by a lot. Like it was, yeah. So and this kid finally realizes that like, the biggest mess up he ever did, um, y- you know, um, that what he did in particular. Uh, he looks at it. He looks at the hammer. He looks at the chain. He looks at both of us, which are both about 17 years old at this point in time. He both looked at us, and he's like, "Oh!" He just yells, like does his screech thing, and he throws the hammer and the thing to our feet, and then he's just booting it. And he left the backpack, he left the hammer, he left the chain there, and me and my friend we're just looking at each other. We're like, what the hell? Like, like what the hell just happened? So now we're left with a hammer and a chain. We don't know what to do with it. I went left for the bag, so we kind of look around for the bag to see if we could return it because I'm pretty sure it was like I was almost pretty sure that he stole it from his dad and he wanted money to Pokemon cards or something. I don't know what the hell he wanted it for. Maybe like maybe drugs. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, but I'm pretty sure it was Pokemon cards at the time. So you know he looked at it and people always ask me, he's like, "Hey Joe, like what is it exactly that you particular like thought, like what'd you do with it?" And I was like I didn't do anything with it. I didn't know what to do with it. So basically what I did is I grabbed it, threw it in the bushes, and we kind of just walked away because we didn't know how to deal with that shit, and we didn't know how to deal with that particular situation. So our solution for everything was just like throw things in the bushes and just run away from it. That was one of the times I got mugged, and the second time I got mugged when I was in this town. It was a kid actually, and I mean this is kind of funny, but not really. A kid tried to stab me with it, but I kind of blocked it with my It was a leather jacket, it was thick one. He kind of like kind of stabbed it, and he's like, and again it was a 10-year-old kid. I don't know what I have with 10-year-old kids at the 16-year-old age. Like he just tried to try to stab me because again he thought I was a drug dealer and he thought I had drugs on me and he thought that I'll be able to get a gift score because he wanted to sell them for himself. I don't know. I think that like when we cut up to him, that's basically what he told us. And I was like, I have no drugs. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. So, yeah. So that was the two times that, particular I had, encounters with, let's say, ridiculous situations that I never had to deal with again. Give me a second. I'm just gonna drink this. Am I the guy that trolled all those trumpeters? No. I wish that was me. I actually wish that I will troll Trump. I've been looking in Canada, man. Like, there's no way in hell you're paying me to go to the U.S. When Trump was around. Like, I was afraid. Not only would I catch COVID, but I'm pretty sure I will catch like everything else that people were not vaccinated for, like the anti-mask and the anti-vaccine kind of thing. I am hell no to the no. I ain't dealing with those people. Um, so one family member like calls you all this trouble. I don't know what you mean. Like so uh, so one of my family members like calls you all like this trouble. I that can you retype that again and re-ask the question? So anyway, so moving on to a couple of like let's say years later, where basically I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and a little bit more over the fact that I am no longer a drug dealer and nobody thinks I'm a drug dealer. Yeah, that's a lie. Everybody still thinks I'm a drug dealer. So I'm 34 now. And based on my life, every single time I meet somebody new who doesn't know, like, he always sees like the open shirt and he sees the cross, automatically out of the first thing they say to me, are you a drug dealer? And I'm like, no, man, I just work in IT. Like, now I'm working on my own things, and I'm working on, as you can see my website tomorrow. I'm a photographer. Um, you know, uh, as a photographer, I do have a lot of I see a lot of funny things, and I see a lot of people, and I get to deal with a lot of funny encounters of things that happen during my lifetime. Is the cartel like got all this stuff happening? Yeah, basically that it wasn't a family member that told me. It was a random person that like one of my friends. Who I thought it was my friend. He was an actual drug dealer. He was more like an acquaintance. I was saying acquaintance. I wasn't really friends with him. I just had him in case, you know, you in high school. I always said you always had your dealer on speedphone dial just in case somebody needs something. I never actually did it, but this guy thought that it would be freaking hilarious, uh, you know, um, for him to. My thoughts on chicken nuggets. They're amazing. Also, kind of weird. Yeah, chicken nuggets are weird. I am very, very weirded out by chicken nuggets. I don't particular. Um, I finally figured out how they're made. And even though they're tasty, even though they're nice, even though they cook very well and they come to it, it's just fucking weird all the crap they put in there. Like it's just ridiculous the amount of like they put all the stuff that you don't want to eat and they like mush it all up and then like they fry it and they put it in there and be like, yeah, that's freaking edible. Go eat it. I don't particularly like. So my girlfriend is Asian, and my girlfriend always gives me random food. I assume that the random food she's giving me is stuff that I would eat, or like Latinos, or like the Western culture will eat to it, right? Um, Baby Shark, Baby Shark, do 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 do, Baby Shark, do 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 do, Baby Shark, do 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 do, Baby Shark. Um, I don't eat shark, but actually, I do got a story about a shark though. Like, so, on the back of my leg, there is I so when I was about 11, 12 years old, I had there was a escalator accident that I had. It basically like if you think of this as about the back of my leg, like the escalator was going down and there was a little window to the side that when my shirt got stuck in it, it pulled me up onto the handle and my skin actually like it ripped over here, right? So like now I have like this big ass scar over here, which is basically um um like that's basically looks like kind of like a shark bite, which is not really what it is. But as a 10-year-old, like you're like whatever, right? So on my right leg right now, if you ever see my right leg, I'm not gonna show you because I take my pants off. I ain't taking my pants off on stream. I'm pretty sure that will like get me banned from everything. But anyway, so if you ever do, like you'll be able to see it that that I have like an actual like it kind of looks like a shark bite kind of thing to it. So in high school, on top of me being a drug dealer or people thinking I'm a drug dealer, and people actually thinking that in particular that I have that I'm this badass fucker. Like, and I'm not. Like, I am literally a panda, and I say that in the nicest way possible. Like, pandas are great. I love them. They're I think they're my spirit animal. They're even I have a tattoo of a samurai panda, and the reason was a samurai panda and like a little baby panda sleeping on top of it, and it's eating babu out the window, and it's dressed up in samurai sword. And the reason why it's my spirit animal is because you know it's everything I want to be. It's just I could fuck shit up if I want to, but I'm probably not going to. And the sleeping panda represents me sleeping all the time, so it's great. And me eating represents me eating. Hence this beautiful body, this ready for the Olympics in like maybe 30 years from now, eventually. And underneath all this fat, there is a body of an athlete waiting to come out, which eventually will happen at some point in time. I'm just not sure when, but it will come out. So based on that, I am literally a panda when it comes to like anything to balance anything like that. So, so this guy, like, and because of that, people like saw the back of my leg. Um, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the silver. Like and because of like people like saw the back of my leg, I saw the baby, like saw the actual um the particular like shape of it. People started coming up with stories as to why it happened. There were three stories going around. One of them was made up of somebody else. Actually, two of them were made up of somebody else, and one of made up of me. And the reason what the other ones made up of me is because I got sick and tired of being like, if people are gonna make crap about it, I'm gonna make something crap about it because I think that I'll be particular. Like um, you know, uh, my man. In particular, it'll be like I'll make my own stories. I'm tired of people making crap up. Like this is after people thinking about freaking like people thinking about like I'm a drug dealer or whatever. I'm like screw this. So the first story comes up, which is the easiest one to be told. Basically, I was in an elevator accident. Basically, what happened? Somehow magically, I was in I don't know some El Salvador or Costa Rica or Mexico or somewhere. I don't know. The elevator malfunctioned and somehow it cut the back of my leg and it pinched it. So like that's why it looks so like it looks like a shark bite. That was the first one. So that one didn't really pick up too much traction. I only heard it for about about four, maybe 10 people. Like it only went out for like maybe a couple of months. Like it didn't pick up much traction. So somebody else decided I don't, and I still don't know who they is to this day. So somebody else decided that because I also do scuba diving and I do have my scuba diver license. I can hang out with you on your head as a sloth. I hang out. Could be spirit buddies, panda and sloth adventureman. Hell yeah, I like that idea. You know what? That's gonna be my next. I think that's gonna be my next tattoo. A panda and a sloth, because I could dig that. I could definitely dig that. So, what was I? The second story, like the second one, and I guess oh yeah, it pinched it, and I guess somehow magically it is what it is, like, and from there, like people just started making things. So I only heard for a couple months, and then afterwards I heard the second story. This one picked up for quite a while. It was about a year that I heard the story for, and every single time I would meet somebody, they will always tell me about this particular story. Like it was like the God-given truth. Like it was beyond like anybody. Even if I told them the truth, they'll be like, "Nah, fam." I'm like, "You're not telling the truth." I'm like, "We held the real one." I'm like, "You're just being modest." And I'll be like, "What?" I'm like, "Did you hear from me?" He's like, "Nah, but everybody knows about it." And I'll be like, "All right, fine, whatever." I'm like, so I just gotta give up on it. That's when I decided, about 6 months into it, I decided to make up my own version of the story. So the story goes like this. Since I do have a scuba diving license, and I got it at a young age, I got it around 16. I was lucky enough to be able to get it. I did travel to El Salvador and where my father lives, and we did go scuba diving there. As you know, in tropical countries, there are sharks. Most shark puppies do not want to hurt you. Everybody knows this in the scuba dive community. If you see a shark, I mean, it's scary, but you usually don't want to do anything to provoke it. But and I do have some scuba diving funny stories to tell you. If you want me to tell you, go ahead, type it out. Like I'll tell you all my scuba diving stories. Like it's great. So, but anyway, so the In particular, like in this particular case, I was apparently, and it got more ridiculous as it went along. So I'll tell the original basis story, and then I'll tell you the added effects afterwards, and then I'll tell you my story that I made up at the end of it. So like it was to the point that I was like, at what point it started with the story that I was scuba diving somewhere in hanging Bahamas or something that I don't know, somewhere tropical, and I got bit by a shark and I got sent to the hospital. That's the basic one. That's the one that everybody knows about, and then after that, nobody knows what the hell it is. So then it added. People say that I was like bit by a shark, but because I'm such a badass and dealing with death all the time, because apparently drug dealing makes me deal with death. I don't know. It is what it is. Because apparently an apparent drug dealer, which I'm not, by the way. I'll repeat that. I'm not a drug dealer. Just people thought I was because I was Latino and I kind of looked like one. Does not mean I was one, even though I look like one. If I was a drug dealer, I'd be a horrible drug dealer because everybody would know I was a drug dealer. You're not supposed to know you're a drug dealer when you're a drug dealer. So, but anyway, and then they added to it, and then I got like they added to it that like I was badass and I stabbed it. I stabbed it. So I stabbed the shark. And then people started questioning the story, which made me, which made it freaking hilarious because I'm like, really? This is where you question the story, not the fact that I was bitten by a shark, but when you question it that I stabbed it with a knife. That's the part you gotta question. I'm like, I'm like, So I decided to add to the fuel to the fire because as you do, like, if people are gonna make crap about me up, I figure I'm like, I might as well be helpful about it, and I'd be, I'd be, I take, you know, altogether, like, am I still streaming? So, anyway, so where was I? Um, yeah. So in particular, like the when I was in scuba diving, I added my own flavor to the actual to the actual story itself, which was in basic it was that I not only did I stab this particular um what's it called that not only did I stab this particular shark, but I also like I fought with it. I mean, I like me and him like we had a like hard on fight like for like for a couple minutes. Um, y- you know, Actually, I'm gonna wait until a couple of beers because I don't see any beers here, so I'm just gonna wait until somebody comes around. Because if not, I'll just be talking to myself, and that'd be sad. That'd be really really sad. Okay, so where was I? So like as I was telling the story before, and if you like, if you're new to the channel, let me know. Like if you want to keep hearing, if you literally were watching before and now you're not, um, let me know. Um, I'm more than happy to tell my stories about like what was happening in my life. I am here to entertain you. I got a couple scuba diving stories to tell, and I got a couple of things to tell people. Like, so I am pretty excited about this. So if you're new to this, type in and be like, "Hey, Joe, tell me a story," or "Tell me a sick joke," or "Tell me a funny story," something along those lines. Oof. If you're new to this, just be like, "Yo, Joe, tell me a funny story." I'm more than happy to like, to tell you something that's going on with my life, to tell you something hilarious. And if you're here, if you were just at my last stream that abruptly ended, rude. Let me keep you the story about the scuba diving, about how people thought that my escalator accident was a shark attack from what it was before. and I'd be more than glad to tell you all about it. Um, if you guys just type in the chat and be like, "Yo, continue a story," or "Tell me a story," and I could tell it from the beginning, or I could tell it from a board, or just let me know what you guys want, and I can tell you the story of all there is to it. But I need to know you're interested. Just say, "Hey Joe, tell me a story, yo." Like, I'll be more than glad to tell you any kind of story you want. It's hot. It's freaking hot. Mm. Just say, "Joe, tell me a story." Joe, tell me a story. Tell me a story. Say, "Joe, tell me a story," and I will tell you all the stories you need to know. Tell me a story. Joe, just say, "Joe, tell me a story," and I will tell you a story. I'll be more than glad to tell you anything you guys want to know. Or if you want to continue the story I was telling you before, I can keep going. Because I'm not really sure who's actually in chat. Yep. Who is in chat right now? Say hi. Say, "Joe, tell me a story." Oh, you like your chain? Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Were you? I don't think you were here for last time, but I can tell you the story of how this chain actually got me in trouble and becoming. Hey, how you doing, Freeweed? How people thought in my high school, um, this actually, because of this chain, people actually thought I was a drug dealer, and I can tell you the story behind it if you like. Because you know how we do. Let me tell you the story about my life, how it started out this way. I am morning land. Alright, cool. So, when I was in high school, I was about maybe in the age of like, let's say, 16, 15. So I was in Vancouver, Canada. This was back in 2000, 2001, 2003. Now, during that time, when I was in high school and during that time, um, I used to dress up as a Gap kid. Now, that Gap kid in itself, like, meant that I was very posh. I was very, like, well dressed. Like, you would, this is not something that you would expect from, a teenager. It was more along the lines of, like, something in particular that you would expect that something not teenager one will dress, somebody more adult will dress like. So, like, I dress pretty, I would say a little bit better than my peers altogether. I always dress a dress shirt and dress pants and dress shoes, just to set the picture, just so you're aware of it. Also, I also have my gold chain with me. Now, in that particular days, that also made it worse by the fact that my mom, at that particular time, thought that that I will actually, I would need to wear a pager in case she needed to get a hold of me, because for her, pagers were the most important thing for her. So she got me a pager. So here I am. Imagine this, me but a little bit smaller, a little bit cuter. Um, do you believe in miracles? Is that like miracles? Now a little bit smaller, a little bit like way hotter than this, you know, uh, altogether. Yeah. So altogether. So now that being said, like way hotter. Like this is not my prime. Like I was fucking hot, and by hot I mean I thought I was pretty good looking. I was like the mini Enrique Iglesias that everybody wanted, but also I was like the derpy version of like everybody, which was not nothing like Enrique Iglesias at all. It was a weird mixture of like some maybe I was hot, maybe I wasn't. Maybe like maybe I was good looking, maybe I wasn't. But also I was pretty derpy. Like I'll say the least. Like it wasn't altogether like a preppy. Not really like a preppy kid. Think of it like Miami Vice back in 2000, where people wear suits, like, and they were like every single gangster of Hollywood would be like, a nice dress shirt, solid, and dress pants, and like nice belt and dress shoes, and it was like very Miami Vice looking, like oye papi, qué pasó, like that kind of feel to it, right? Like, um, that kind of the feel to it that basically I looked like. And on top of that, I had a pager, which made it worse. Uh, it's like a miracle, but beer related. If there's alcohol related, anything can happen. So yes, I do believe in miracles, because alcohol can make anything happen. It's magical. Anyway, so in this particular time, like that like as I was going through this, and people were like noticing that about my appearance, and I also had a pager. People started making crap about me. People started making rumors. People started doing things about me. And one of the rumors that went around, and I've come to this around, is which I didn't know about at the time, is that I was a drug dealer. And as a drug dealer, apparently I got to keep up appearance, but I didn't know this at the time. I did not know that I was an actual drug dealer. People just assumed that I was a drug dealer because of the clothes I wear and because of the pager and because, as you know, um, hey Billy, what's up? As you know, like anybody who has a pager and looks Latino and wears up like preppy clothing, it's gotta be a dealer, right? Like that's just the way it is. Like that was the so also the neighborhood was prominently white. There was only like a couple of like there was only a couple Asian people around me. Like there was one classroom, and I think one and a Romanian and a black kid, and that was it. That was it. Like that was the diversity of the school. It was like so when they saw Latinos, and they saw them in Hollywood, obviously like it was basically, for the sake of like they always detracted it, and pages didn't help out for it. Um, so me and my friend who were walking up like up to the street, like we're about a block away from the actual school. It was a gas station. um the gas station itself, like we grabbed some Slurpees. Slurpees are basically, for here in Canada, I don't know if you guys have them where you are, but basically it's like a slush with Coke in it. It's just ice, and they just add a bunch of sugar and then like some kind of pop. That was it. That was a Slurpee. Apparently they were huge back in the 2000, when it first started. Let me grab some water. So that being said, like we're walking down, we're coming back down, and all of a sudden this random car literally parks on top of the sidewalk, blocking me and my friend. Now you gotta understand, my friend's about 6'4". He's he's a black belt, like like black belt second degree at the time. He's now 10th degree or some crap like that. Like he's buff. He looks like mini Goku, like had a son, and this guy powered up, and that like that would be the actual kid that he had. This kid was like he had like packs of like you know of strongness, of like strength in places that I'd never seen before. Like he like the four packs had like four packs in them. Like that's how fucking built this guy was. And me and my little fatty ass, like didn't go that well. But whatever. So he was hanging out with me. Like this guy, he's about to like jump onto this guy, this huge ass guy. Who, by the way, I've never seen in my life, and I never seen or know who the hell he is. Comes out, and this guy, I kid you not, his arms are like the size of my head. Like his forearms, like they're huge, like as in massive. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm gonna freaking die. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm like, this guy's gonna go for me. I don't know why he wants a piece of me, but I'm gonna die. So, as this guy is telling me, he's like, I'm gonna mess you up. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, now, I'm thinking a picture, I'm like, you probably wonder how I got here. And then, like, it will tell a story. Yeah, I got none of that. Like, I don't even know who the hell this guy is. I don't even know how I got there. I don't even know what I did. And the guy comes out to me, he's like, yo, I'm gonna mess you up. You know what you did. I'm like, prepare yourself. And I'm like, wait, what the hell did I do? He's like, you know what you did. And he started telling me about the story, about the fact that, that apparently I was at a drug deal, and the drug deal went bad, and or like I was in this turf. I don't know what the hell it was. I don't understand drug they go, so I wasn't really sure where this conversation was going. So I was like, but I wasn't. And my friend is like, yo, were you there? I'm like, dude, I was with you. I was like playing video games like the whole damn time. I'm like, how? Like, what makes you think that I was like, like, shut up, man. Like, it's like my friend's like, right. Like, sorry. I got to cut up in a moment. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, whatever. So this guy's like, I gotta mess you up. So in my mind and my big brain and my little thing that I used to do, like, I thought, how can I take care of this problem? I don't know how to take care of this problem because I don't want to get beat up. I don't want to die, and I don't want to take a punch. I could probably take a punch, and I could probably take him down, maybe. But I'd probably be very hurt or die or, like, be in the hospital or something if I take one swing. So I was like, also I'm wearing glasses, so you don't punch a guy with glasses. Also, I'm like, I wasn't really sure what to do. So my big brain moment at that particular moment was that I was like, hey, how about we hug it out? And he's like, I gotta mess you up. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, let's hug it out. I'm like, big brain of mine thought either three things could happen, maybe four, two things. Now, I'm getting to that right now. So, like, four things happen. One, either A, he will think I was gay and he will run away because he, whatever reason, maybe he's homophobic. If that didn't work, B, the fact that he had, like, I'm showing him love, like, maybe he hasn't had that much love in a while, and it will scare him, knowing full well that if he gets too much love, he won't be able to act tough. Or three, his mom didn't love him, and this is the only love he got, and it will, like, he will cry deep inside of him, and it will just regret his decision and go together. Or four, he would just punch me in the face. It wouldn't happen. Um, Obviously, like maybe it was a combination of A, B, C. But every time, like, every time he tried to go a punch, I'd be like, yo, yeah, man, that's fine, man. Let's hug it out. Like, there seemed to me some misunderstanding. He's like, no, I'm gonna mess you up. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You can mess me up. But I'm like, after we hug, I'm like, just give me a hug first, and then we can, like, we can start fighting. And I was like, I was quickly approaching him with my hands extended because I didn't know what else to do because I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to. If I run away, he will chase after me. Like, like, the only option I had was to give him a freaking hug. By the way, that's my number one defense. If you're a meanie and you want to fight me, I will probably try to hug you first before we try to fight because I prefer to. Because people will usually run away from it because you don't show when you show love to somebody when they're really angry, it just deters them from doing anything. So just so you're aware, if you're a meanie in real life, I will probably try to hug you or I might well just walk away, depending on what it is. So this guy, so I'm going after him, and I'm like, hand extended. He's like, I'm gonna throw a punch. I'm like, that's fine, just hug it out first. He's like, he makes this rear out sound, like that. It sounds like a monkey, and he's like, next time you got lucky. This time, he's like, next time I'm gonna mess you up, like. Right? Yeah, Sammy. So he's like, I'm gonna mess you up. And like, this guy fucking runs away, right? Like, he just goes away and he runs away and like he leaves and like altogether he just leaves, and I'm like, my friend is about to jump him, who's, by the way, again, he's a black belt, like second degree, so this guy could easily take him on, no problem. He'd still be a little bit hurt, but like he could easily take him on. I, on the other hand, I'm like, I used to be a black belt when I was younger, but like my younger years are not there, so like for me it was 2003, 2002 were the years that were like a little bit balanced. Um, but like and I'm walking home, and we're talking to my friend, and he's like, "What was that about?" I'm like, "I have no idea." I'm like, "I never met this guy." Blah blah. And this particular guy fucks off because like my big brain of mine was that give him a hug would actually work out, and it did, and I was very surprised. And now that I always do this, so and then from there, like I start asking around to what is this about? Like, what's happening? And then finally, one of my friends tells me, he's like, "Oh yeah, this guy told him that you were a drug dealer." I'm like, I was like, okay, but I'm like, so I'm a drug dealer. He's like, "Yep." He told everybody you were a drug dealer. He's like, I'm like, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him, so like, basically, people in the school thought I was a drug dealer because one guy who actually was a drug dealer told everybody I was a drug dealer. I don't know if I was a scapegoat. I don't know if there was a deal with that. Or he thought I was being cool, or he was giving me a favor. I don't know, but apparently what it was. So next day comes around, and this particular guy, like the same guy that tried to beat me up, comes to my locker. The locker is about chest high, so it's about right here, somewhere around here. And the guy comes out to me, and he says to me, he's like, and this guy, he comes at me, and his face is pale, like white pale. Yeah, exactly. I didn't get my face pounded, which is great. Like you know, win for me. And in particular, it was great. So this guy comes out with a white face, is like, "Yo, dude," I'm like, "Oh God," I'm like, in my brain, and I'm like, he's like, "I didn't know who you were," and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't even know who I am. I'm like, who am I? I'm like, at this time, I'm having intentional crisis because I don't even know who I am at that particular time, and I don't even know, what is it that in particular, like, I should be like looking for. Um, so, like at this particular stage, like this guy is just yelling. The only way he yelled at me last time, now he looks pale, like pale, like the day he was born. Like it was just like he hadn't breathed for a while. So, that being said, he's like, I didn't know who you were. He's like, and I was like, what? In my head, I'm like, yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. And like, obviously, I responded like, yeah, don't worry, but try to be cool, right? Try to be like, cool, 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 cool. Don't mind me, like, I totally know, um, what it is to it. And he's like, and all together, and he's like, yo, like, and he has me this card. He's like, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know, like, what you stood for, what your family is. Please don't hurt me. I'm like, please don't hurt my family. If you ever need backup, here's my number. And two guys is like behind him were the little two homies were like, yo, like, I was like, he's like, yeah, 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 don't worry, man. I'm like, we got your back, we got your back. And I was like, I take numbers, like, yeah, just don't worry, but it's misunderstanding. And I'm like, I tried to act cool, I tried to act against it, but it just came out. I was like, yeah, but like, don't worry about it. I'm like, misunderstanding happens, like, just don't do it again. And I'm like a cocky bitch that I am, and like, and that in particular, like, was a little bit of a stretch, I would say, towards the fact that what it was. So I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. He's like, he walks up, he runs off, like he'd never seen this guy walk faster in his life, and I was like, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I'm like, because I'm sitting there like trying to figure out what just happened, and I'm like, I finally go to the guy that talked to me. They told everybody, like, that I was a drug dealer, and the guy he tells me, like, he tells me, he's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I remember now. Yeah, I told everybody you were a drug dealer from Colombia. I'm not from Colombia, and that and that basically your dad sent you here to grow the expansion of cocaine up in Canada, and right now you're trying to expand the network of, like, so when your dad gets here, he already has it established. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, and you thought this is a good idea? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, and when made you came up with it? I don't know. You look Latino. You look like a drug dealer. I figure it would be good for your rep. And I'm like, let me get this straight. You thought for my rep that it would be a good dealer for me to be a cocaine dealer, which I'm establishing in my own accord. Um, oh, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Big B Choo Choo. Like, this guy in particular, like, like he's like, you thought that that'd be good for my rep. Like, everybody. He's like, yeah, 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 yeah. Now everybody's scared of you. And it was because of me. And he looks at me with his grin ass face, is like, "You're welcome," kind of thing. And I was like, "Oh God!" And that was literally the start of my high school like endeavors of like a lot of miscommunication and a lot of things that like could have been resolved if people had common sense, which I know common sense is not common, but whatever. That being said, um, I do like Pablo Escobar. I have been told that. I have been told that so many times by people that I do like Pablo Escobar, and it is horrible. But whatever. Anyway, so once that happened, I was like, the teachers, like the principal, came up to me at one point in time, like a couple months later after that happened, and I was like, and people are legitimately scared of me because they think I am a Colombian drug dealer dealing cocaine, and I'm the ringleader, and everybody knows about this in the school except for me. It took me a couple months to figure out that I was the ringleader. Guys, you know what? You fucking made it. And I was like, damn. Where's that money that I'm making? And I'm like, cause I don't see any. And apparently during that time too, I was dating a couple of girls. 'Cause everybody wanted to like date the bad guy kind of thing, and I didn't know who this girl was, but apparently I was dating like three girls at the same time, and I had like it was dramatic. Apparently, like it was great. Um, like people would be like, "Yeah, he's dating her, and he cheated on her with this other girl," and I'm sitting there, I'm like, how? I'm like, who? I'm like, who are these people? I'm like, who am I dating? And I'm like, I haven't even like seen any of these girls. I'm like, how can I be dating? I've never seen him. So anyway, so that was it. And then the principal, out of all the people that I thought would be like, would be actually have like some kind of decency and not a complete douchey, like he comes up to me, brings me to the side. I thought he was gonna be nice to me and talk to me. Nah, this motherfucker. This is what he does. He's like, yo, Joe, and I'm like, and he's a new principal, right? And he's like, um, you do kind of look like a bootleg. Like, he's like, yo, Joe. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, he's like, I know who you are. I'm like, I know what you've been doing. And I'm gonna catch you. And I'm sitting there, I'm like with a Pikachu face with me, like asking, like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, who the fuck do you think he is? Ever since that day happened, he kind of just like decided that upon me to like, to raid my locker with the police officers, because he thought that I was dealing drugs and I will hide them in there. The police officers, which are supposed to be the top of the notch, like, actually professional in this, I heard him say this, and I kid you not, they say that, hey, that guy's good. I'm like, I don't think we'll ever catch him. And I was sitting there like, WTF, like, 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 what the hell? Like, did that just happen? Like, did that actually just happen? And did that guy actually say that? And I was like, okay, whatever. So, that was basically a career for it. On top of that, there's other things that I particular had that were also like in the sense of like um kind of like ridiculous and stupid that happened throughout, like my shark bite, which is not a shark bite, the um whatever it is. So anyways, this is the part where I usually do for improv, and you guys give me a phrase that you want me to tell a story about, and I will try to make a funny story about that. And then at some point, somebody will have to say, switch. What that switch means is that I will switch the direction of the story or where it's going to, and I will try to keep up with every single time. But if I see too many switches, meaning I see one like back to back and I haven't even finished a sentence, I'm gonna wait like maybe 10 seconds to it. So you guys give me a word or a phrase that you would like me to make a story about, and I will, in the attempt of my funniness and practicing, I will literally try to make this a funny story about something, and I might relate it to myself, or might relate it to something that happened in my life, or might relate it to something else. So feel welcome to, like, to give me your stories, because I'm, or like, at least the beginning of a story, so I can come up with something on the fly. Um, you know, and I'm more than welcome to, like, you know to come up with something on the fly, so you guys, so I could be your entertainment. I wanna be your entertainment. Do 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 do. I wanna be your entertainment. Cheesecake. All right. So cheesecake. Oh man. All right. So cheesecake, 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 cheesecake. Let me come up with something with cheesecake. That's a good one. Give me a phrase. Give me like a cheesecake. Cheesecake what? Like cheesecake. Like domino cheesecake. Like cheesecake is so buried to it. Like give me something I can work with. Like like I got cheesecake, so great. I have something to do. What do I do with a cheesecake, or what is it that I'm particular having to accomplish with a cheesecake? So, well, it wasn't really cheesecake, but this time, like, so I'll tell you a story about a cheesecake that I had did fun to it. So, um, one particular friend to it that I particularly had back in the day. He was not the brightest of them all, but he wasn't like he wasn't he was bright, but not that bright. Well, I would say it was a she, but in this case, story is he or she. It doesn't really matter. Like this particular person wasn't particularly bright for altogether. Um, you know, and he always say things that were particular a little bit off, and you weren't quite pretty sure what it was together. So like the backstory of this particular person was that like he would just think like he didn't know much about cooking and didn't know much about particular things that happen in real life. So the as he went into like we went together, I was like, hey, let's go have a cheesecake, and he's like, what is that? And I'm like, it's a cake made of cheese, dude. And he's like, he kind of just looks at me. He's like, "Why the hell would I want to do that?" And I'm like, "Well, cause it's good, it's sweet." It's like, "Nah, man." It's like cheesecake is not sweet. Like it's cheese. Like cheese is usually salty, like feta cheese. Like why would you want to have it in cake size? That sounds disgusting to me. Man, this is going wrong so many places. But he's like, I'm like, nah, don't worry about it. I'm like, I got you. I'm like, let me show you. Let me show you the world. I'm like wonderful things and shimmering. He's like, "Why are you singing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." Anyway, so um, as we go towards like this random thing to like to have an actual like to actually the first cheesecake life, I tell him it's like, okay, here you go, and he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a fucking cheesecake," and I'm like, and he's like, "Well, yeah, you know what? I'm not sure where I'm going with this. If someone says switch, like I could actually change the story, the actual storyline of this. I think I need more than cheesecake in order to make an actual funny story, because I cannot make cheesecake funny. Like cheesecake is not the unfunniest thing that I can ever think of when coming to it. Like out of all the things, like like cheesecake. Yeah, okay, cheesecake is hilarious. Like because everybody loves it. Nah, nobody loves like cheesecake is only eaten by like people that decided that it'll be like it's not even freaking cheese on that thing. Like I don't even know what it's called. Is cheesecake even made of cheesecake? Like what is cheesecake made of? Cheesecake. Cheesecake is a sweet dessert consisting of one or more layers in the main thicket layer, a mixture of soft, fresh cheese. Oh, it does have cheese. Who the hell thought that cheese would be a freaking good dessert? Like seriously. Oh, cream cheese. Yeah, that doesn't make it any better. That yeah, that doesn't make it any better at all. Like that just makes it and that's weird. And that's really weird. Um like yeah, that makes it really weird. Yep, that makes it freaking weird. Stand-up comedian from advice from a top professional. Be funny. You know what's also a comedian advice from a top professional? Go fuck yourself. See if I give a shit what you think. I mean, be funny. Yeah. That actually is that was hilarious. I'm actually laughing at that because oh my god, that's fucking hilarious. Oh, that's funny. Professional my ass. Professional can suck my nuts. Cause that's like, you're just being like you can't just say if you're a professional, be funny. Like that's so rude. Like that's just rude. Like you can't just be like be funny. Like if you're gonna give me criticism, be like yo, like like try to land your jokes better or try to like try to have a better like punchline or like or something. Not just be like yo, be funny, because that doesn't really work. You can't just go up to somebody and be like up to it. It's just rude. Just rude, 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 rude. So rude. Oh, I don't know what you mean. Yeah, I have no idea. Thanks, Boomer, for ruining my joke. You're welcome, Boomer. You know what boomers remind me of? Boomers remind me like they're about to like I think they're called boomers because they're about to explode. Like, boom, like as in like so if you don't know this, they consider the boomer generation because they're literally there's like a whole section of them up here and a little section of us millenniums, um, up at the bottom supporting this. So at one point, because we cannot burst it, it just burst, and it's called a boomer. Since I'm not retired, and I don't give a crap about anything. Um, yeah. Thanks, homie, for ruining my joke. Here's a tip from a professional. Be funny. How do you like that? All right, guys, I gotta stop the stream for today. I am good. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time coming in. I'm glad I was able to talk to you guys. I'm gonna go play a couple of games because I am actually, you know, I want to do other things. But thank you for coming out. And yeah, have a good night. Bye. Let's see. If you're listening in and you want to know what's going on in my life, just say yo.